Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my April 2026 reading vlog. So far we are a couple of days into the month and so far I have quite the TBR that I have both started and read, so let's get into it. On the very 1st of April, my sibling came up and gave me my comics that I'm reading for the month. Are you as excited as I am? We are finishing off the Grayson storyline. And then, of course, I still have War and Peace to get through. I am 215 pages into it, and I have just not wanted to pick it back up. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. And finally, the novel that I have currently started is Innamorata by Ava Reid. This has been pretty talked about on the BookTube, Book Talk, any other book place community because it is controversial. It was really recently published. Ava Reid is a well-known author. She's written stuff like Juniper and Thorn and Lady Macbeth and other works. And this story is considered controversial because it has a lot of dark and explicit themes on page, and everyone's mad that there are no content warnings or trigger warnings. Those don't need to be in books. You can absolutely spread those amongst the community yourself if you feel that there is some content people might be uncomfortable with, but they do not need to be in books. Books are already done by age, so you should already know what you're getting into. However, this book was also accused of being marketed as romantasy, and it is very much not that. It is very much gothic fantasy, so I understand maybe that complaint, but the other one I do not agree with in the slightest. So far, I am a couple of 100 pages into it, almost halfway done, and I do have a lot to say, but I think I will go on as I read with my ideas rather than putting them all out in my first clip. So stay tuned for my future thoughts on Innamorata, and yeah, let's see how my month goes. Okay, here is a quick update to say that I have finished Innamorata by Ava Reid, and it was not very good. Before I delve any further into my thoughts, I just want to say that everyone who is giving this book low reviews on Goodreads, because the book should have had content warnings at the beginning of it, are the biggest bunch of babies in the world. They do not need content warnings at all. You are all pathetic, and you're all just hounding on this for no reason. Sure, there's pretty dark stuff in here, but it is a gothic book You guys don't know what Gothic means anymore. It's not just the look of things, it's the content of those things. And in all honesty, it wasn't that bad. The writing of the book is very descriptive, but it is descriptive in a way that I found very annoying because it is trying so hard to convince you that it is depraved and disgusting, and it is not executing it very well at all. For instance, one character, that being the male main character's father, is described as this horrific, disgusting pustule of a man, this big fat creature. Big fat, big ugly sloppy gross fat. His name is literally the Sluggard, and it is just reiterated so many times that he is just so fat and so disgusting and so grotesque he can't even stand up on his own because he's so yucky, icky, grossy, fat, evil, bad guy, gross yuck. And that is such simple writing, simple descriptions. Like, yes, he's a bad guy, so of course he has to be ugly to make up for that, because the way you look is the way you act morally, of course. That is just the cheapest form of writing that I've ever really endured. I haven't read anything like that since the really, really cheap old writing from like the 1700s that I read. And of course it goes in the opposite direction, that being the male main character and the female main character are both described by not just each other or themselves, but by everyone in this book as good and pure and pretty and lovely, and so pretty, and his eyes are so blue, and he wears such a little blue outfit, and his hair's blonde, and he's such a good boy, he's such a good pretty boy. And it is just such an example of how your appearance in books like these is meant to show your moral value and how good they are. They do nothing to subvert this at all. They do nothing to challenge this. It is just simple descriptions, and every bad character is ugly, and every good character is pretty. Sure, they do slightly bad things, but they're still good in the end. They had good intentions. Everything was done for love, because they're pretty and young, and pretty and pale, and pretty and blue eyes, and blonde hair. Pretty doublet. He's wearing a pretty doublet. This book also has such a lore to it that is just completely misused. She sets up, I believe, 7 families that are all representative of different areas of the human body: teeth, flesh, blood, lungs, heart, etc. And there is just a huge lack of development in what their process is, what everybody's values are in each house, the differences between each house. Like, ooh, the House of Blood are really bloody and brutal. Wow, the House of Eyes are very perceptive. Yeah, the House of Teeth, the main house in this, doesn't do anything. They don't do anything with their teeth. They don't do anything to have an explanation for why they are considered the House of Teeth. Nothing goes on in the lore of this. All they do is one scene at the beginning, and then they're just a bunch of feuding houses afterwards that don't really have any substance or much consequence besides just simple betrayals. It's all very boring in the end, and it could have just been literally any warring factions, could have been any just areas, territory surrounding the main kingdom and their issues. It had nothing to do with the fact that they were representative of the different body parts. The love story in this book also was just not interesting at all. It was really predictable, and it did a terrible job of conveying their desire and their love and stuff, but they just kept reiterating in the writing that their love was good, no matter what it was doing. And there is so much plot in here, so much plot for no reason. It is supposed to be a duology, so I think it could have been split into 2 books better. I'm going to tell you very vaguely what happens, all in the span of 500 pages. The 2 cousins plan a marriage, and then the other cousin gets married off, and then that ends, and she comes back, and then there's children, and then their children are married off, and then there is consequences to what they were doing. Just follow, like, one plain plan. It was very rushed, it was very boring, I did not know how much time was going by, and it was just all very, very dull stuff. But the writing in this book is very ambitious. It is very overwrought with a lot of description that isn't very good, and it utilizes a lot of the same words. People have made a joke that this book uses the word quotidian like 450 times. At first I thought, aw, hey, come on, cut them some slack. It's probably not used that much. It's used so often. At least it taught me what the word meant. That's one positive there. But the rest of the descriptions, they're very ambitious, but ultimately they do fall flat. I don't think I was captivated by any of the words or descriptions used in here. I did not even experience disgust at a lot of the things that people have accused this book needing content warning for, being violence and sexual violence and cannibalism and desecration of a corpse. Nothing in there disgusted me. I went into it expecting something to be shocking to warrant all this response, and it ended up just not doing anything with a lot of gravitas. It did not affect me emotionally. It all fell very, very flat, and I just think that it was not a very good book. It left me rolling my eyes a lot. There was also an issue where there are multiple perspectives of people in the castle, such as handmaidens, wet nurses, these doctor servant people called leeches, etc. And none of their points of view added anything. I think it would have been more interesting if we followed maybe just the main character and we found things out as she did. I did not need everyone in the castle planning their conspiracies in real time on page and then just to cut back to it being enacted. I just think there would be more shock value, more surprise, more reveals if they just left everything in one perspective. I've never understood having that many perspective changes in a book that don't hold a purpose. So yeah, I think I have spoken enough on my initial thoughts on finishing the book, so I have no idea which rating I'm going to give it yet, because I still want to think about it, but you will know by my wrap-up. But I have finished Innamorata by Ava Reid. This was also my first Ava Reid, so yeah, I don't know if I'll need to read anything else by her, to be honest. So stay tuned for updates soon. It is almost the end of the month, and I have just realized I haven't really updated you besides Innamorata, so I will update you now. I finished Grayson Volume 4, A Ghost in the Tomb, and Grayson Volume 5, Spiral's End by Tim Seeley and Tom King. These both sucked. They were just finishing the Grayson arc where he's a spy working for Spiral. The only story I liked, and it was a very, very, very minor part of that story, was Constantine explaining how he ended up saving Grayson from a group of vampires, and he just thought he was hot even though he couldn't see his face, and he saved him from a bunch of vampires, and all the vampires were like, "You were awesome and your blood was awesome." I like vampires, so I liked that part, but every other story in here was a waste of time, and I really hated it because modern comics are just reiterating instead of adding more complexities to the character. Like, yes, we already know that Dick is good at everything, even as a spy, and he's always going to be Nightwing, always going to be Robin. So this storyline to me was just a waste of time and was just reiterating that Dick Grayson's good at everything, that he's kind of way in over his head, but he gets the job done because he's a wild, reckless circus boy, and that he has a big ass. So thank you for wasting all those pages for a year, guys. Awesome. I also read a bunch of 80s Teen Titans comics in preparation for me being able to read the Deathstroke comics next month. I read a bunch of random issues that featured Deathstroke and explains where he's going after the Judas contract and right before his own series of comics, Deathstroke the Terminator Begins. They were not very good, but I was told that they are the better ones in the Teen Titans storyline, so I'm very lucky that I only had to read those. I believe I have a few more to read before I can eventually start Deathstroke. And I also spent 2.5 weeks listening to 44 hours of the audiobook of Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. I finished that last week and I thought it was very, very good. It was a lot to listen to, and I understand why this story is considered one of the greatest novels of all time. It is very funny given the time that it was published, being the 1600s, which I didn't realize at first. I thought it was very funny and very, very influential, but it is just not the kind of story that I consider a favorite. I will talk more about it in my vlog dedicated to the last books I have to read off of the poster. But yeah, I spent 2.5 weeks of this month listening to Don Quixote for a couple of hours a day. It was a lot, and I feel very accomplished having finished it. Another small update is that I went to my local library's library book sale, where each book is only $1 each. I only managed to pick up 3 books, however. I got A Room with a View by E.M. Forrester, A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, which I know the reputation of this book. I know what I'm getting into, and it was $1. I couldn't pass it by. And another book that I got, story time before I show you the book. Last month I tried to go to one of my city's local resale bookshops, and I picked up a book and I brought it to the cash, and the lady said, "I can't sell this to you. I have other clientele who want this book, so I can't sell it to you. I have to sell it to them." So I just handed the book back and went, "Okay, thanks, bye." Like, how rude. If you have a book that's in high demand and you don't realize it's on your shelf, you need to realize that it's on your shelf. You need to keep track of your own goddamn inventory. So you just lost a sale, and I'm never going back to that bookshop ever. Like, what a horrible, horrible business exchange, lack thereof. Terrible, terrible customer service. I thought that was the stupidest thing that had ever happened to me. Well, joke's on her, because not only was she at the library book sale picking up inventory for her shop to sell for 10 times the price that they're being sold at the library book sale, I found the book she refused to sell me. So I finally have James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. I have already read this before, and I'm glad to have a copy that I didn't buy from that horrible, horrible woman. So yay. I'm very, very much excited to read all of these books probably soon. The last time I went to the library book sale, I picked up 2 books, and I have yet to pick those up to read. So hopefully I will get to these soon, and I am so lucky and so thankful that I didn't have to pay $12 for the other book that she refused to sell me, and instead I got rewarded this from the lovely people at my local library. So thank you, library. I will see you at my wrap-up.
Okay, everyone, here we finally are at the wrap-up. Now, for this month, I didn't read as much as I would have liked. Did I read any of War and Peace? No, because instead I read Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, which is the first book I will be talking about here. It is one of the final books off of my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster books, and it was a 44-hour-long audiobook. It took me 2.5 weeks. So yeah, I kind of did sideline War and Peace in order to prioritize Don Quixote. So I will have to really kick it into high gear and read War and Peace in the next 2 months. So good for me. As for Don Quixote, I will talk more about it in the vlog dedicated to the poster, but I enjoyed it well enough, despite it being a super, super long audiobook, and I can understand how it is influential and a very, very interesting novel. So I believe I will be giving it 2 or 3 stars. I'm still caught in between my ranking here. Next, I read Innamorata by Ava Reid, and I gave that book 2 stars. I have already gone into great detail about my issues with the novel, but I will just say here, it was a very ambitious story, a very ambitious idea and writing style, but in the end, it just did not deliver in all of the ideas that it was setting up and trying to convey. I just felt that it was very, very muddy and lacked a proper perspective other than just trying to shock and disgust its readers, which it worked. Everyone hates the book because there's no content warnings, so good for it for that at least. Next, I read V2 Comics finishing off the Grayson arc by Tim Seeley and Tom King. I read A Ghost in the Tomb and Spiral's End. Both of these are interchangeable to me because I just think that they were not very good, and I was really, really tired of reading it by the end, and I didn't like this storyline. I didn't like what they did with any of the characters. And once again, I will reiterate by saying all comics were doing during this time period was reiterating who a character was instead of adding any depth or anything. They tried with new characters, but with the characters that have already been established, they do not want to add anything else to their development. They don't want to. They are like, we don't know what to do. Help us. And it really showed here. And I just really, really hated this arc. And I'm glad I don't have to read it ever again. Yay! 2 stars for both of those. And then finally, I ended the month by reading a bunch of Teen Titans comics from the 80s that all featured Deathstroke in order to explain the arc he was going into prior to me reading the Deathstroke the Terminator comics. So those were okay. I'm not going to give a rating to each one because I read about 8 to 9 different issues. So yeah, I finished my month by reading those. Ultimately, it was a very, very lackluster month, and I'm a little upset about that, but oh well. I'm looking forward to next month when hopefully we get out of the rainy season. April showers bring May flowers and all of that. Thank you so, so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you didn't. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.